about here, please, if you've got any questions as we go through this, please use the chat function, send them off. Gabby's real good at interrupting, so we can kind of address those. I'm going to let our two additional panelists here introduce themselves in a second, but I want to tell you a little bit of the context of the bigger picture, what we're trying to do with these next three sessions. I think you guys have probably seen out there on the channel this kind of resurgence, if you would, about discussion about Microsoft Teams. And really, even in this post-COVID world, where we've started to rely, I think, on collaboration tools more than we ever have before. I mean, I've got a cell phone, right? And it used to be I did 80% of my phone calls on this. I'm now working from home, and I'm doing 80% of my phone calls on some collaboration environment. So these three-part series, what we want to do is I want to kind of explore with Justin and Alex today a little bit about what we're seeing on kind of the UCaaS 2.0 side, what this new collaboration world looks like. The second in the series, I'm very excited about Chris Pope, who's our lead VoIP engineer on our SIP core. He and I are going to walk through what we're doing now in Teams integration. And there's some exciting things about how we can either be direct route suppliers just to a Teams instance, how we can integrate a Microsoft Business Voice Teams instance with our UCaaS offering, or even how we can take somebody's customer premise PBX and enable Teams extensions across that. We're going to have a technical deep dive showing call flows and what we do on that, as well as that second session talk about, there's a new client we're going to talk a little bit today about Webex Teams for BroadWorks that we think is going to be kind of a game changer. So that's going to be a second in our series. And the third series is we're going to have another panel talking about how these then are also affecting kind of work from home and what are those wedges we can use to build new relationships with your customers, with partners, etc. So let's open up here on this one right now. Justin, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell them about kind of what you do with us, etc.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And nice to meet everybody. So my name is Justin Rice. I work in our innovation office at CBTS, and really my primary role and responsibility is to help help visualize where the market is going, and making sure that we at CBTS are both educating our partners and our customers, and that we're developing relevant solutions to bring to market to kind of keep pace on where things are going. So, part of what I'll talk about today is going to be around, where has the market been going, and what do we see in this UCaaS 2.0, so thanks for the time, and I'm excited to be here. Alex, you want to go next?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Alex. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Thanks. Yeah, so my name is Alex Broome. I'm a sales engineer here, work with Matt and the channel. I'm really an architect at heart. I've been a solutions architect at CBTS most of my tenure, and just focusing on how we can deliver really good quality experiences out to our customers using technology, of course. And so, this is an exciting new time in the UCaaS space where we can really start to expand and offer that collaboration experience out to your customers.
Cool. And it's Alex joined my team about 9 months ago, and it's been a great addition. So Alex was really at the forefront of kind of working in the back office, building a lot of our UCaaS, a lot of our SD-WAN products, etc. So, well, fantastic. Well, let's get right at it here. Well, one of the things I want to open up a little bit is kind of talk about where the movement's been, right? We're kind of used to this idea of taking services from the PBX that used to be, kind of at the customer premise, if you would, and moving those services into the cloud. And we've been selling, quote, UCaaS in the channel now for quite some time. And there's still plenty of room there. I mean, it depends on kind of what numbers you look at, but maybe some 20 to 25% total penetration. There's a lot of growth yet for the UCaaS space. But in a lot of ways, I think in the past, when we've looked at some of this, it's almost been centered around kind of just making a phone system again. We didn't really necessarily change how we worked so much. And I know, Justin, you and I were talking on the phone the other day about this. Share a little bit about what you've seen maybe of this kind of, in some ways, I talk to customers maybe about a pre-COVID and post-COVID world about what this change has taught us. So talk a little bit about what you've seen and what you guys talk about in the innovation from kind of this movement in UCaaS.
Yeah, and thanks, Matt. And you're exactly right. What you see on the left-hand side is really where UCaaS has been, and has been very effective in the workplace. we slowly started to see the adoption of things like, and look over here on the right-hand side in the green, workstream collaboration. You don't want to write that down, look it up. There's a whole new market around workstream collaboration, but we started to see, frankly, accelerated deployment and adoption of things like workstream collaboration, which is channel-based and shared workspaces for employees. Same with business process integration, same with performance dashboard. But what we've really seen that's incredibly interesting is as different organizations continue to adopt these kind of new feature sets, it opened the door for inter-office communications. Us communicating with you communicating with your clients. Now that there's almost a standardized adoption of these next generation technologies, that really opened the door for things that really accelerated the opening of the doors for things that you really couldn't do previously on a consistent basis with all of your clients. So that's been incredibly interesting for us. Again, the workstream collaboration piece is you're going to see things like Microsoft Teams, Webex Teams. A lot of the team Slack is another great example. A lot of people are building in workstream collaboration as its own platform. But one thing I like to say is the new C in UCaaS is for collaboration, unified collaboration as a service. And it's really taking what we saw as UCaaS in the past and adding this new collaboration suite for the UCaaS of the future. There's a quote up here on the top, and I'm just going to read it out. By 2023, 40% of new enterprise telephony purchases are going to be based off of a cloud office suite. So people are making their decisions on what their cloud office suite gives them. What is the integration into my Microsoft Office? And that needs to be there even more so now to effectively collaborate, not only across my organization, but with my clients, with my vendors, with my partners, etc. So anyway, that is kind of where we've seen things go from a UCaaS adoption for the future. Again, I'm going to say it again, workstream collaboration is going to be incredibly important and a premise for kind of our entire discussion.
Well, I mean, one of the things I'd like that we've talked about, I like to think about too, is that, again, I used to think about my phone, my desktop phone and my cell phone kind of as the primary thing to talk to Gabby, if I wanted to call Gabby, or you, Alex, or I wanted to talk to a customer. And now so much of what we're doing are in these collaborative spaces.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, Alex, you and I, we spend our whole times, right, as being an SE. I mean, out of the last 100 communications with customers, what's a percentage of the ones that have been done in some collaboration space compared to on a cell phone or a telephone, right? I mean, it's huge, right?
Yeah, I mean, heck, in the last 6 months, I haven't seen a customer in person. So, yeah, the bulk of our communication is done in these new collaborative tools. I mean, you and I, if we want to have a quick chat, oftentimes we're hitting the video call button instead of picking up the cell phone, right? So it's kind of amazing how quickly our clients have adopted it too. In the beginning in March, April, everybody was still trying to figure things out. It felt like it, and the next month, I mean, they were totally on board. So it has been a rapid adoption.
Well, I'll tell you, that's one thing. You talk about video calls. It's one thing in our world here, and we kind of to a person, because we sell collaboration tools, right? We can help implement Microsoft Teams. We can help implement Webex Teams for BroadWorks. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We do Webex meetings. We've pretty much told our employees, you're video first. You need to be turning that video camera on. And I would suggest that to our partners as well. I mean, I pretty much now, I've got a workspace carved out against the wall here, right? But when I show up every day at my workspace, I've at least got a decent shirt on, and I've taken a shower and done my hair, right? It's like going to work. And I think we ought to be, as partners, even out there, I kind of recommend you guys as partners, turn that video camera on, because I think the more you use it, the more you get people used to that experience, that collaboration, etc. Well, let's go take a look at a couple of other things. Well, this is something you put together, Alex. I think, not Alex, I mean Justin, just about some of the numbers of what we've seen in the collaboration space. So talk to that a little bit, because I know you've done some research there.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And yeah, so like I said earlier, collaboration really is the new C in UCaaS, and you know, when you do research online, you look through Gardner, Forrester, all the reports through there, there's a significant growth opportunity in this market when we really start to highlight the collaboration piece of UCaaS and kind of the workstream collaboration. What that means from a dollars perspective is over here on the left. In 2018, the market was about 8.5 billion on team collaboration software. By 2026, it is estimated that's going to be an $18.3 billion market. Again, rapidly accelerated from COVID, and the decision time is now for these organizations to build out that collaboration roadmap for the next number of years. We're seeing just over a 10% compound annual growth rate on this market. And one of the quotes I saw from Gartner in particular was that from 2019 to 2023, frontline workers' use of workstream collaboration applications is going to drive teamwork and productivity. So much, in fact, is going to increase from 5% to 20%. So that's a big jump. In addition to that, just what is the market doing today? As you sit in your desk, you talk to your clients, you work internally. It's estimated that about 90% of enterprises use some type of collaboration platform for internal communications. That could be Webex Teams, could be Microsoft Teams, could be Google, could be Slack. 90% of organizations, again, are using that internally. What's really intriguing to me is how that's opened up now externally. As organizations, as your clients look to hone in on standardizing on 1 or 2 or 3 different platforms, your communication with them is going to be completely different. And that to me is the most compelling part about this whole workstream collaboration and the new world of UCaaS is how we now communicate with our customers differently.
Well, we're gonna get into that a little bit when Chris Pope and I in the session go a little bit into Webex Teams as this collaboration platform, because again, I think in the past I used to think of a really almost a web conference or audio conference, and I would just invite people into this one-time experience. But these collaboration spaces like Webex Teams allow me to build a shared space, invite people in, share files. It's persistent chat, so we've got a conversation. So I know, Alex, when you guys from an SE perspective, right, when you're building space or doing collaboration with a customer, you're building that space where you're inviting the customer or internal resources in. And so these are actually new ways to work and enable collaboration between both our internal folks and external. And we're going to go into that on the Webex side.
Yeah, well, and listen, Matt, you bring up a good point. I have one of our large strategic customers here I'm pretty aligned with here at CBTS, and with the, it came through the indirect channel with the partner, and we communicate with the customer through a collaboration platform. And the interesting thing that this has done over the last 3 years with this client is we have now become an extension of their team. We have an easy way, context aware, persistent chat to communicate with each other. And what that's opened the door for the partner is we have new revenue streams we've been able to adopt because frankly, you become an extension of their team when you have that ready and available platform to communicate with in kind of real time.
I think you're talking about that customer. We've done like 1,500 locations, right, of
That's
Meraki
correct.
at the edge, Meraki access points, and then phones, Cisco phones, right?
Exactly. Now we've expanded into new lines of business with them. Absolutely.
And that collaboration platform, again, just to reiterate, we're using Webex Teams for that, and we've got members of our internal team that are in there constantly. Our partner that brought us the business there is there, as well as this customer. And this material and that space, it's like we were all working in a common room together. And I think that's really what's changing how we look at some of these things. So not only am I stopping to use this device, I'm doing less and less on these kinds of PSTN connectivity, but now I've got new environments to truly build collaboration that we haven't been able to. Maybe we've been able to use them, but I think COVID has really driven a lot of that as well. So
totally. Yep.
This is something we wanted to talk a little bit. I know, and we opened up and talked a little bit about. We were going to talk about the different platforms, right? I kind of liken it. I mentioned earlier that we're still early on in the game of adoption of UCaaS in general, right? We're still maybe only 25% penetrated in the total UCaaS environment out there. And when we've gotten this kind of early group, it's been a lot about just replacing the PBX. It hasn't been about changing work like you were talking about, Justin, right? But now it's starting to happen, right? And the early players, hey, we've been in the business, all of us been around this a while, the partners are listening. There's platforms, RingCentral, uses some people on the back end, 8x8's got their own platform, Slack has a platform. That's all been growing, but I think we're seeing a shift in a certain way. Like you see Teams here as this column. I saw a statistic the other day that Microsoft Teams pre-COVID was like 20 million so users on Microsoft Teams. Last month, it was something like 85 million users. I mean, the growth has just exploded. So let's talk or explore a little bit about that. If there have been players like RingCentral and 8x8, Slack in the room, but now maybe the 800-pound gorilla of Microsoft is coming in, and we believe we want to talk about how the 800-pound gorilla of Webex and Cisco is probably going to become more relevant than you really imagined before, how that landscape might change. You got any thoughts you two want to share kind of on what that landscape's like?
Yeah, what I think is most interesting is that if we just look at the right side alone, the feature set of Teams has not only had their users increased in the last 6 months, but the feature set is rapidly expanding. And I think that speaks to the environment that we're in now, is that these tools are going to be at the forefront of businesses, as Justin mentioned, and they're going to continue to develop more and more features that clients are interested in. And that's a result of their use. And that is going to empower, you guys as partners to interact with your client in new ways. And these tools are going to be not only important in your interactions with them, but they're going to be important to support your customers with their business.
Yeah, totally agree, Alex. And one thing that's really interesting to me, and Matt, I'd like you to touch on this if you don't mind, is the rapid adoption means that customers are procuring from salespeople, they're procuring from partners or whatever. The go-to-market strategy from a channel perspective for these companies are all different. And it's been really interesting to see how they've evolved. Like Matt, give us an example. Like, what are you seeing from Cisco as far as their like channel go-to-market strategy?
Well, that's a great question. We as a company, we've kind of pioneered in the channel this idea of Cisco as a service, right? We've been a Cisco partner 20 years. We felt that there's a significant, I tell a story, there's some 50 to 60 million Cisco phones out there registered to customer premise Cisco phone systems still today. 10 years from now, they're all going to be on somebody's UCaaS and collaboration platform. Some of them are going to be on RingCentral, some are going to be on Fuse, 8x8, whoever. We're there to help bring those Cisco solutions. So one, we kind of pioneered that Cisco as a service. But while we're doing that, Cisco wasn't necessarily waking up and making these tools fit in so easily, if you would. And that's one of the things on the Cisco Webex side. People have traditionally thought of Webex as a standalone tool that's separate from my UCaaS platform, right? Webex didn't talk to the PBX. It was just kind of a collaboration piece. And you're going to be hearing an announcement from us, from Cisco, of what's called Webex for BroadWorks, Webex Teams for BroadWorks, and we're going to do a deep dive in that in the second session with Chris Pope. But really what that is now is the Webex experience, right? The ability to do all the checkboxes, because they actually do have they've been an 800-pound gorilla on the collaboration side. It just hasn't linked as well to their UCaaS platform. And so now we really believe that you as partners, one of the things we want to take in this series here is to help open your eyes up to the fact that we got two big 800-pound gorillas coming in. Microsoft Teams, how are you going to play with that? And that's what we're starting to talk about here. We want to talk about in the second session. And then this Webex experience, that's now becoming part of UCaaS 2.0 on the Cisco side. And so we believe you're going to see a lot of new information and new marketing come out in Cisco. We've been talking about them. So they've finally started to wake up to the channel, and you're going to see a lot in the next year about how they're coming in and starting to teach us and the channel how now Cisco and Cisco UCaaS is part of that new collaboration space, that new UCaaS 2.0. So that's a great point. Now again, RingCentral, 8x8, those kind of companies, great solutions. We're here as CBTS for those customers who want to explore the Cisco and Webex story and deliver that as a service. So yeah.
Yeah, but also Microsoft Teams, Matt. I mean, I know you mentioned earlier, our next session, you'll really dig in with Chris Pope and talk about how we can work to integrate Microsoft Teams into that UCaaS story. let's not skim over that there are a lot of customers, as you mentioned earlier, that are adopting Teams and looking to have that be an integrative experience with their UCaaS platform.
No, it's a great point, and I did kind of skip over it because we even, hey, we've been a phone company 100 years. We've been delivering UCaaS services now like 18 years on our call manager and our BroadSoft platform. We never imagined that we'd be in the market space today of helping people enable voice and direct route for Teams. But we know we have to do that, right? Like right now, we're in the middle of talking to a hospital with 30,000 phones, and they are going to have some 15,000 phones in Teams and 15,000 phones in somebody's UCaaS platform. We hope we win that, but that would have never happened, 2 years ago. So I think as providers, next generation providers have to be able to enable Microsoft Teams voice, be able to integrate that into their UCaaS platforms or somebody else's third-party PBX, because you're right, Alex, you can't deny that Teams message, particularly around the collaboration tools, now dragging through the PBX and direct route, we're all going to have to start to play in that game. And so ourselves as service providers, partners around this call, have got to figure out how to make money around Teams as well and provide solutions around that. Absolutely.
So we did have,
Yeah.
So we had a couple of questions come up. So are the Cisco reps being brought up to speed on their collaboration offerings?
They are. There's good things about being an 800-pound gorilla, and there's bad things about it. They're a little bit of a big ship, and it takes a while to turn them, right? So they have a lot of people to train. CBTS, we're $1 billion a year, 3,000 employee company, but if we want to get something changed in a couple of weeks, we can still do it, right? Cisco takes a little longer. So yes, they are being brought up to speed. We have seen, we had a meeting just 2 weeks ago with a couple of representatives inside of Cisco on the service provider side, explaining exactly how they're coming in the channel and who they're starting to work with. You're going to see some things of a couple of masters in the channel they're going to start working with and having some communications. And then we have experience on the Cisco side in particular of being able to bring those Cisco account managers and technical sales overlays in and bring them into the sales process, actually make them a partner to you, the partner, as part of the whole process. And they get paid the same way whether somebody buys Cisco services from us or from some other VAR. So that's a great question about how we integrate with Cisco, and two, are they starting to wake up? And yes, they are starting to wake up and teach their people about what's happening.
And then another couple quick questions. So where do you guys see Google in this environment since Gen Z has grown up on it through K-12 and college?
That's a great question, but I'm going to go over to Justin and see if you've got any more thoughts, because I'm actually 62 years old, and it's a miracle I'm using some of these tools right now. So,
great question. In fact, I recently read a book called The Gen Z Effect, and it's kind of about that. It's okay, how do we empower this kind of next generation with the tools and business processes, etc. What I'll tell you is what we don't see from a Google perspective is a lot of the feature sets targeted to the enterprise, and so we see that there's a gap from what kind of businesses or the enterprise is expecting to what Google is actually delivering, which is a little bit of an issue. So I think long term, I'm not sure that we'll see Google, at least probably in the next 3 to 5 years, as a super relevant player up market. I think you will probably see it being very relevant in the kind of startup world, maybe the SMB space, due to the fact that the integration with G Suite, the cost benefits of doing such a thing. But as you try to drive larger deals and get up market, I don't think we will see that anytime soon, as probably a really key player in the space.
Okay, and then one other quick question, and then we can continue. Matt, why do you feel you have to enable Teams? Eventually, every UCaaS vendor is going to cannibalize their own offering. The only company not doing this is Zoom, and their stock is over 400.
Why do I think we need to enable the Teams story? I can only maybe give you the experience we've had, and Justin and Alex kind of pipe in here too, as you've seen these things. 2 years ago, I've been selling UCaaS now I've been selling it for 12 years. When you went back 2 years ago, a year ago, even a year ago, people just, let's say 2 years ago, people never mentioned Microsoft Teams. There was never, when we talk UCaaS, that it just never came up, right? Now, as particularly COVID, post-COVID, there's been so much focus on the collaboration tools, right? Again, I do all my business, all these meetings, I'm either in a Microsoft Teams meeting, a Webex Teams meeting, a Zoom meeting. That's, you know, that's it. That's all, that's pretty much all I live in. I don't think that's going to change. And I believe that that's going to be the focal point. We've already started talking internally about how we're the phone company, right? We make money delivering phone calls across long distance and 800 and central office to central office, right? That's going away. These calls that we do here, my call right now is not touching the PSTN at all, right? This session's not touching the PSTN. So, one, I think we have to be ready to start to talk about the phone company and phone calls being less important. Collaboration is what's driving all of this change, and Microsoft Teams is at the forefront of that. And so that somebody who's sitting on a Microsoft Teams client wants to call out to somebody's cell phone or receive a call from a cell, I think we're going to have to be, somebody's got to provide that to us, and it might as well be CBTS, it might as well be you as a partner. And so I just really believe that a lot of this UCaaS collaboration is going to follow what are the collaboration tools, which again is why we believe Teams is important, and you got to be ready for it when your customer says that's what I want, as well as a customer says I want Cisco. I better be ready with delivering the Webex Teams for BroadWorks solution to enable that and build a phone system and collaboration around that. Again, RingCentral can be a great choice, other 8x8, etc. But I just think you can't ignore Teams. It's changed. We again, this hospital that we're dealing with, there's just no way in heck, even 9 months ago, they would have ever considered moving 15,000 users to Teams. It's just beyond comprehension. So,
and Matt, if I could just, I know we're kind of running out of time here, but what's really interesting about that whole thing is, look at it from Microsoft's perspective as a great example. They have quota carrying reps out there pushing Teams to every single large customer that exists in the market. Now, customers are saying, hey, you know what? Yes, I want to adopt this. I want to adopt Microsoft phone system, before realizing that, oh, you know what? Maybe not all the features and functionality relevant to my business exist in Microsoft Teams. So what they're saying is, okay, well, I need a provider now that's going to integrate the two. And I need someone who's capable and willing to work with someone like a Microsoft or someone like a Cisco to make sure feature sets are integrated enough to give me all of these next generation things, while also keeping the integrity of my kind of existing UCaaS platform. So to me,
and the reason the UCaaS platforms are still relevant, like this example, the hospital, we've had other ones with lower use counts or lower employee counts, is that the PBX functionality inside Teams is weak, right? You can't do multi-level, hunt groups. You can't do paging integration. The call center is not there today, and even when it comes, it's going to be weak. So there's all sorts of reasons you still have to have functionality out of another platform, and I think that that's the opportunity for service providers like us and partners like you guys to still capture that mind share and get a customer for the next, decade, even if they're going to be using part Teams. So.
Yep.
I think we're at the end here in a lot of ways. Time-wise, we'll just do a couple of things. I think we talked a little bit about this idea of, at least certainly from my perspective, and Alex, you mentioned it, I haven't been out of my house. All the meetings, I spent 120 nights in a hotel in 2019, and I've spent like 10 so far because we got shut down, mid-February, right? So we've all learned how to whiteboard, right? I mean, any of you who've worked with me, I'm doing whiteboarding now on the screen on top of PowerPoints, right? Going over and doing whiteboarding inside of OneNote. So really, the proper use of these tools, we pretty much can have the same experience as though we all got in a room, sat at a whiteboard and started talking this stuff out. So we believe there's some stuff there. We kind of talked about this idea of collaboration, in this idea really that now we've got workspaces, right, that we can bring both internal and external people in. We can share files that's persistent, etc. I can have this experience on a tablet on my phone, you know, being able to look at files, share files. I've done the same work with a Webex, you know, Teams client on my cell phone as I have here on my tablet. So and I think the last thing here we want to just share with you, and this is going to be a little bit more detail when we talk in the next session, but we really believe, again, this analogy of the 800-pound gorillas, one of them is Microsoft that's come in. We believe you're really going to see an interesting resurgence of the applicability, if you would, kind of the relevance of the Cisco Webex experience combined with UCaaS, really of becoming this next generation UCaaS 2.0 platform. So, Gabby, is there anything else we want to just finish up with real quick?
Nope, I think that's fine. If you just want to mention again the next one in the series, and then we can close out.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Thank you everybody for joining us here. We hope some of this has been a little bit relevant. I'm excited about this second session here because we're actually going to go into some whiteboarding about specifically how we integrate with Microsoft Teams, kind of the 3 different models, right, of how we can do that and enable a solution and relevance and revenue for you as a partner. And we're also going to show you the Webex Teams client and really what that means, what the importance of a persistent collaborative workspace is for both internal and external folks, and how that now is a soft phone client, a smartphone client for Cisco UCaaS, right? And so now we're really talking about a new way to look at that Webex tool. So Gabby, Alex, Justin, thank you very much for participating here, and we hope this has been useful. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.